Thank you. Our next race also features one candidate, and that is the race for Washington County Commissioner, District 2. Mike Niehuser could not be here tonight. Mr. Niehuser has a background in education, research, investment banking, and analysis, and in natural resources as well as real estate. He served on the Hillsborough School Board and on the West Union School Board. His opponent, Greg Malinowski, is with us tonight. Mr. Malinowski's occupational background is in farming and in manufacturing, having worked at Tektronix and Merrick's. He has served as a member of the CPO in Washington County, the Forest Park Neighborhood Association, and has been involved with the Farm Bureau, 1,000 Friends of Oregon, his church, and is a mentor at Terra Nova High School. Mr. Malinowski, thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate your being here. How about an opening statement, 2 minutes, please?
Sure. I want to thank you all for doing this, especially the group, City of Beaverton, and the citizen participation groups that have put this together. This is an excellent opportunity to reach you all. I have lived in this area pretty much all my life. I was born on a farm that straddles the county line. So I've been there until I got done with high school, and then I went on to a little bit of college, and then I got married, and I lived in Beaverton for a while, and then in Aloha, and I'm back on the farm. Some of the critical things that we have to face us, as Treasurer Wheeler said, are jobs. We need to do something about the jobs in the situation. Even if you have a job, it's not comfortable knowing that if you lose it, you're in big trouble. So we need to go ahead and do what we can to help the small and medium-sized businesses. Large businesses are big employers in Washington County, and that's terrific. But those big employers and corporations tend to go ahead and hire people when the recession's over, things are picking up again. It's the small and medium-sized businesses that are out there coming up with new ideas and getting things started. We need to do more as a county commission to go ahead and make sure that we're friendly to those folks, and when they come in needing help, instead of blowing them off or ignoring them, that we go ahead and help them find what they want to need. The other thing we need is strong and healthy communities. We need a community where you can walk half a mile instead of having to drive a car half a mile. We need a community where you can go ahead and have schools where the state of Oregon feels kids should walk half to 1 mile to get to school. And I hate to say it, but we have part of the Beaverton School District where they have to haul kids 1,000 feet by bus because there's no sidewalk between the homes that the county authorized and the school district. So these are just a couple of the things that I want to work on and be your county commissioner.
Thank you. In my day, we had to walk to school uphill both ways and in the snow.
Amen.
Washington County Commissioner District 2 includes the West Slope neighborhood.
Yes.
As you well know. And that area has seen, and I'm quoting now from one of our questions, a ridiculous amount of exposure to adult entertainment along that particular stretch of Canyon Road, end of quote. The question is, what will you do to eliminate the proliferation of adult entertainment in the West Slope? And why hasn't the county enforced regulations about signage that have come in from the past or pushed to improve in some of the conditions in that neighborhood?
That's a very sticky one. The Oregon Supreme Court has determined that pornography is a free speech issue. What we really need to attack, and personally I'm against anything that takes a segment of our society and dehumanizes them. It's just not fair, it's not right. But what the other issues is that there's drug selling going on, there's sometimes there's not enough customers in the building. The women put on or take off their outfits and walk out on the street and wave people in. This does not make a good community. This is not a good commercial community. Obviously, you're not going to take your family and take them out for ice cream on Sunday across from that business. And so the businesses around them leave, and you end up with empty storefronts around them, and then you get more like businesses with them, and pretty soon you've got a part of the neighborhood that when your relatives come to town, you drive them somewhere else to show them the area. What is the county doing? The West Slope area is a particularly interesting location. City of Beaverton has some jurisdiction. Washington County has jurisdiction over other pieces. Businesses move back and forth from piece to piece. And I think what we really need to do is work a deal with Beaverton, Washington County does, to make sure enforcement is done properly and adequately, and that we don't allow these people to just shift from one to the other. And we protect our neighborhoods from this kind of business and human trafficking.
Well, that leads into our next question. In what areas do the duties and responsibilities of County Commissioner affect the citizens of the city of Beaverton?
In what area?
Let's talk for a minute about how the city and the county get along.
Well, they should get along quite well. City of Beaverton actually has a reputation for having a pretty good government and a pretty good system. Washington County tends to treat the unincorporated urban areas like they're really rural areas. For instance, in the city of Beaverton, if your neighbor decides to pull a car into his front yard and start selling parts out of it, that's against the law. It is against the law in urban Washington County, too. But in the city of Beaverton, Beaverton will send out someone to give that man a ticket and tell him to stop. And in Washington County, basically, they'll recommend you get a good lawyer. And that's your problem, and thank you for calling. And that's one of the issues that's come up in West Slope as well. In fact, one of the businesses in West Slope burned because the fire marshal had determined they had violations, but Washington County was dragging its feet about doing anything about it. Finally, the building burned. That's probably not the best way to deal with public nuisances, is hope they catch fire and burn. I do think we need to cut a deal with City of Beaverton to say that we are not going to play these games with people who hop from one jurisdiction to another to avoid complying. The business that burned in Washington County moved to a Beaverton area, a Beaverton location, and when they had fire troubles there, they went to the City of Beaverton. The community complained, and the City of Beaverton said, well, they're going to move back to Washington County pretty quick, so we're just going to kind of, And that's from speaking with the neighborhood. That's some of their issues. And we simply have to work together. We all live here.
Annexation is going to be on the agenda for Washington County Commission next year. How do you see annexation playing out, particularly as it affects Beaverton?
I think the good people of Washington County unincorporated urban areas need some choices and not just be given a bum's rush one way or another. I have said that I believe there's three basic ways to approach this. One is annexation to an existing city. One is incorporation of a new city. And the other would be a municipal service district, another service district Washington County would go ahead and have that would create an urban level of services for the unincorporated area. Right now we have a situation where the cities are still annexing. Some people say there's a freeze. There's not. If you have valuable tax property like commercial or industrial or undeveloped residential, the city would be glad to have you come in and take that property. What happens then is the urban unincorporated areas tend to get a smaller and smaller tax base as that goes forward. And it tends to start to weather, I guess you'd say, or lose some of the nice parts of it. And we need to just give people the figures. We need to go to each community and say, these are the figures, this is what it'll cost for annexation, this is what it'll cost in a municipal service district, and this is what it's going to cost if you incorporate in a city, and expect that each neighborhood, the people will get together and figure it out. And it doesn't have to be one answer fits all. Some of the unincorporated areas can go to Hillsborough, some can go to Beaverton, some can, if that's what they want, they can even incorporate. But we need to give people the choice. For 30 years now, we have drug on and left that area out there with little in the way of services. We need to go ahead and give people a choice and get them going.
The city of Beaverton has a couple of state highways running right through it, but we also have a couple of county roads. Murray Boulevard comes to mind. How do you see Washington County and Beaverton working together to increase the traffic flow and make the congestion less than what it is today?
That's a very difficult, that's going to be another one that's going to be a tough one. As you know, the way the county finances stuff is when a developer comes in and decides he's going to put in, say, 1,000 homes, he's expected to put in the sidewalks and the streets where the subdivision is. But he also impacts arterial streets and sidewalks to schools and stuff that's off-site. And currently the county proposition is that if he'll pay 28% of that money, that the taxpayers will pick up the other 72 later when they feel like it. There is no plan to collect it. We've been doing it for 30 years. We now find ourselves about $2 billion behind. And that, of course, since people in Beaverton live here and pay those taxes, that's of course going to have to come out of their pockets too. With this economy the way it is, I don't have a good plan for grabbing that $2 billion back. But I think we ought to take another look at why we think the developers need to be subsidized in order to have them build houses. And we may need to look at whether we really want to pay 72%. At the rate we are paying off that debt that we've accumulated for the last 30 years, we're going to pay it off in 72. And North Bethany has 800 more acres. It appears, because it's hard to get figures from the county commission, it appears that there's going to be $130 million of that are going to need a taxpayer subsidy. The people in Beaverton are 1/7 of the population, so figure out what you owe. Do we want to keep doing this for developers, or do we want to change things?
This has been very enlightening. Thank you for coming tonight, and we'd like to offer you a 1-minute closing statement.
I'm just hoping people will take a good look at, I encourage you to take a look at my website and Mr. Niehuser's website. I encourage you to take a look at Orstar if you want, and you can see, where the money's coming from, and you'll get an idea where things are going. I understand the developers say that in order to keep going, they need tax subsidies. One of them even told the commission he would never build another house in this county again if we didn't go ahead and allow him to have a subsidy. That doesn't work for my business. I have a small business. I have to figure out my own plan for making it pay out. If we can subsidize if we want, but we're taking 72% of the cost of putting those in, and we are going ahead and we're not making any plans to ever pay that. And to me, that's just wrong. That's shoving it off on the next generation. That's leaving a surprise for our kids. And if we can really afford to subsidize 72%, then we ought to come up with a system for paying it. If not, we need to rethink the figures. Thank you for your time tonight.
Greg Malinowski, candidate for County Commissioner. Thank you for being with us tonight. Our next